different dynamic in terms of other compared to other postgraduate courses. We're going to have basically scenario video presentations from participating institutions, and we'll invite a couple of distinguished doctors here to act as our panelists and discuss the video. In order to make it a little more interactive, however, we have prepared also a little bit of something. But before we get into that, may I introduce our esteemed panel. Some of these people you have met before as well already. Like our first panelist, Dr. Reynaldo Santos. May I invite you on stage? Yeah. Yes. Dr. Lorenzo Fernandez. Dr. Peter Paul Ronque. I'd also like to invite a couple new faces. The section of the glaucoma in the St. Luke's Medical Institute of I, Dr. Tombocon. The head of our institutional review board, Dr. Carolyn Butler. And our vitreoretina specialist from UST, Dr. Ronnie Manaysay. Lastly, I'd like to invite on stage our moderator, Dr. Jacqueline King. All right, so before we start, like I mentioned earlier, to make this segment a little more interactive, we invite everybody here to scan the QR code. It's going to bring you to a link where you can also participate in a few Q&A that we're going to be flashing after the video presentation. These questions are, there's no right or wrong answer, or some might be more right than others, but we're basically be using them as a jumping off point for our discussions here today. So if you have the time, please scan this now and stay on that link until after the videos have started. All right. So if everyone is good, I think that's okay. We can proceed.
Flores ay isang 68 years old na retiradong guro ay dumating sa ospital para
Okay,
magpakonsulta.
sorry. Let's give a minute, just 1 minute more. While we're waiting for people to scan, I do want to recognize the institutions that have submitted their videos for us. We thank them very much for participating. Thank them very much for participating. I think our first video will be from Ilocos Training and Regional Medical Center. We have also a video from Philippine General Hospital, from St. Luke's Medical Center, and the Medical City. So we'll be showing the video first, having a discussion, then proceeding to the next. Everybody good with the QR code? No objections, okay.
Flores ay isang 68 years old na retiradong guro ay dumating sa ospital para magpakonsulta dahil sa lumalabong paningin dulot ng katarata.
Uy, number natin yan, ma. Halika na po. Ay, sige lang, sige. Dahan-dahan na po.
Morning po, ma'am. Good morning po. Hindi po. Ano pa pa-check up ninyo, ma'am?
Yung mata ko po,
Buti nga lang. Kala ko yung tiyan mo, ma'am eh. Sige, ano po nangyari sa ano niyo, ma'am? Sa mata ninyo?
malabo po kasi. Tapos sabi ng kapitbahay ko, katarata yata. Tapos pwede daw operahan. Pwede po ba maoperahan yung
Sige,
katarata?
silipin ko muna saglit. Mapakitanggal nga po yung sa damit niyo, ma'am. Okay na po, Nay. Sige nga
Saan
po.
po ako?
Sige, parap niyo lang po yung alin niyo, ma'am. Parap lang po kayo. Sige. Dito po. Ngayon, yan. May baba. Yan. Sige. Mhm.
Kamusta?
Hmm. Sige ma'am, pasalita po kayo. Makapal po yung katarata niyo, ma'am. Pero huwag na kayo mag-alala. Pwede naman natin pwede ka namin i-schedule ng surgery next week.
Sige. Ano pong kailangan i-prepare?
Wala po kayong kailangan i-prepare, ma'am. Libre naman po.
Ay, salamat.
Okay.
Ay, mo yun.
Salamat po.
Hindi.
Wala na po kayong kailangan problemahin. Gamot, lente, wala po kayong kailangan problemahin.
Sige, salamat
Okay.
sa Dok.
Sige po.
Teka na po. Saan ako?
Sige po. Tawag na lang po ako kung kailan po yung schedule niya. Sige po.
Pagkatapos ng consultation, ay nagkaroon ng diskusyon sila Dr. Reyes, Medical Representative Jenny, and Nurse Carla.
Yung pasyente pala na nakita ko kanina, i-schedule mo nga siya next week. Operahan natin siya sa kanang mata niya. I-double check mo yun kung meron pa yung lens na.
Good morning, Doc!
Ay, good morning.
Hi!
Hello.
Ay, Doc, thank you ha sa paggamit ng mga branded na gamot sa lente namin ha. Don't forget yung Predsola
Ay, sige.
para doon sa CME sponsorship.
Oh,
Doc, papilan mo.
sige.
Pa-picture na rin. Doktor, saan ka na?
Ayan.
Tsaka ka na dito, ma'am. Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dok, gagawin ba natin standard lens na natin yung sa kanila?
Oo naman.
Pati yung post-op meds, kami na natin standard yun.
Pero Doc, di ba may mga generics naman tayo na available?
Kasi Mara, sunod ka na lang sa instructions.
Naging successful ang operasyon ni Ginang Flores. Pero minsan, nagrereklamo siya ng silaw. Dumating ang anak niyang si Richard para kamustahin.
Nak, nasisilaw ako. Ganito ba talaga pagkatapos ma-operahan? Tanungin mo nga.
Opo.
Kasi parang hindi naman nasisilaw ang katabi ko.
Opo, sige po. Na-operahan kahapon po. May tanong lang po ako, medyo nasisilaw po kasi si mama. Normal lang po ba talaga na gano'n? Tapos sabi daw po hindi daw siya pinapilit na ang lente.
Ganun po ba, sir? Baka mas maganda po na kausapin niyo na lang yung nag-opera sa kanila.
Thank you, nurse. Salamat po.
Dahil sa concerns na nasabi ng pasyente at ng kanyang anak, nagkonsulta ang isang resident doctor na si Dr. Sanchez sa isa sa mga senior consultant nila sa hospital patungo sa naging paghahandle ng kaso nito.
Follow up po kayo kahit after 2 weeks.
Ay, sige po. Thank you po,
Yes,
Doc Lee, may concern po kasi ako. Hindi po kasi pinapapili yung mga patients na IOL ni Doc Reyes.
Ano? That's a serious issue. Patient safety and rights ang nakasalalay dito. Tawagin mo si JP.
Nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na kausapin ni Dr. Lim si Dr. Reyes para marinig ang explanation nito tungkol sa pag-handle niya ng kaso ni Ginang Flores. Kaharap ang hospital administrator para marinig ang
JP,
panig nito.
na-explain ba sa pasyente yung options nila ng IOL?
Ginamit ko na naman po yung available dito. Tsaka nakakakita naman po siya. Wala.
Pero, na-inform ba sila? At yung gamot, bakit branded yung ginagamit? Ba't hindi tayo kumukuha dito sa pharmacy?
It's standard of practice naman na po yan. Tsaka, yung ginamit ko naman po mga gamit, nanggaling lang din po dun sa partnership na to.
Wait lang, Doc. Delikado na to. Conflict of interest na to. At apektado na yung karapatan ng pasyente. Kailangan natin i-review ang supplier's agreement at kailangan natin ng full disclosure moving forward.
Sa araw ng follow-up ni Ginang Flores, nagkaroon sila ng pag-uusap ng kanyang doktor na si Dr. Reyes.
Pero nakakakita naman ako.
Itanong na lang po natin madoon sa doktor na nag-offer sa inyo.
Sige.
Next patient po. Hindi ka na po. Hindi ka na.
Ay, ma'am! Magandang umaga po. Good morning po.
Good morning, sir.
Doc, thank you
Wala pong anuman.
Pero sana sa susunod. Kasi masilaw eh. Baka may ibang options. Sabihan niya ako pag may mga ibang options. Kasi bata ko to eh.
Opo, Nay. Pasensya na po kayo. Tama po kayo dun.
Thank you po, Doc.
Ay, sige.
Ang informed consent ay hindi lang basta pirma sa papel. Ito ay respeto. Sa tunay na etikal na pag-aalaga, pasyente dapat ang inuuna.
The questions.
All right. So thank you for watching that first video. May mga sumagot na yata. All right. So for the first one, there's a question. All right. The first question really was COI, conflict of interest between the fiduciary relationship with patient and pharmaceutical companies' interest. In your opinion, what was the most worrisome aspect of the relationship between physicians and the pharmaceutical industry? Majority of our audience here, still some changing their minds or adding to it, noted the potential bias in treatment recommendations. All right. So our panelists, maybe you can take a look at this graph and maybe help analyze that later on. Before we do get to that, let's see the next item. The next question was, what is your overall attitude towards the relationship between doctors and the pharmaceutical sales representative? If you haven't keyed in yet, please do. All right, there you go. Well, I think the trend is not going to change. No? Majority is still technically neutral, some supportive, a couple opposed. So perhaps we could jump off with that with our panelists. Doctora?
Okay, so this is an interesting scenario. We have a resident who obviously was influenced by the pharmaceutical, the med rep, no, to use his IOL and his drug. So the problem probably here is because he did not also inform the patient of his other options. I'd like to hear from our panel here if this is a common scenario and what do you think of it? Maybe call on Dr. Pipo.
That's a very good question. Would you like to answer that, Tony?
No, I think we have this scenario. This is a very, very real scenario that we see pharma in our clinics, offices, but it shouldn't change what's best for the patient. We also have to take into context that your healthcare system, especially if it's government or if it's private. And I think the key concept here is we do what's best for the patient and we shouldn't be swayed by secondary gain. And that's my take on that.
But the patient was able to see clearly, and the patient was asked to pay extra for that. So it's so easy to justify that probably it's okay.
Well, but you have the doctor had financial gain with the CME.
CME.
Yeah, so that's that's the very clear conflict of interest. Now it's a different matter if that's actually what is you're going to use. The rep is coming in, but in this case, the doctor is definitely swayed in his choice by the presence of the rep and the CME, as the rep was alluding to.
Dr. Manaysay?
Yeah, so it's really a issue of conflict of informed consent. So, I mean, it's an informed consent. No? So the doctor did not inform the patients of the possible complications or side effect of any that the patient will receive. No? So it's really a conflict, especially if it's a secondary gain of receiving some monetary or supportive something from the pharmaceutical industry. But I also one thing that I see in this scenario is a conflict between two colleagues. No? So the resident complained about the practice of his consultant. So I don't know how it is in government institutions, how you procure or use medical devices, but in private practice, whatever the consultant deems fit for his patients, that's what he will use. Now, this scenario, a resident complained, so it may be because of um, a problem with the institutional way of doing things. But at the same time, is it because the resident wants a position while he's complaining? So to gain some, parang nagpapalakas to a chairman, probably. I want to be chief resident, I will complain because I saw this consultant doing something na out of the ordinary. So like what Dr. Kisha has mentioned earlier in her lecture, one of the key to making your success is relationship with your colleagues. So you have to weigh in why you're complaining of somebody. Maybe you should have talked to that doctor first before complaining. And then the consultant naman who received the complaint was very uh, provocative or um, masyadong straightforward. No, bakit ito ginawa mo? There are things, there's way, confrontational. It's very confrontational. So good thing that the receiving doctor was very open. Pero what if confrontational din yung doctor? So it's a big conflict with the institution. It can conflict your patient's care.
Are there processes in place in your, in your experience, Dr. Santos, when you would like to elevate an issue with a colleague, what processes would you recommend?
This is the issue of the resident um, complaining about the consultant. No, if there are processes there, I mean, there should always be a right venue for any grievances. No, and I don't know what that institution's policy is, but normally, if it's a resident who sees a consultant, I would like to use the word misadventuring, no, on certain things, because I don't want to call it he's actually wrong, but he's misadventuring because there's something quite different from his actuations. There should be a grievance committee in the hospital to which you could air it. But I think, in fairness to the resident, right after the consult, I saw in the clip that the resident questioned the consultant, aren't we going to use the IOLs that we have? And even the nurse asked that, no? So, but the consultant dismissed it. Sumunod ka na lang, sabi ng consultant. And I believe this is a clip from a government hospital, no? So, there is really a conflict of interest between the consultant here and the pharmaceutical industry, because in a government hospital, you're only supposed to use items that are procured by through the procurement process. Obviously, the medications here and the IOLs were not, but it was given for free because probably it's a premium lens for them to try. And I don't think just because it's not being charged to the patient, because sinabi nung the doctor said, first consult, wala kang aalalahanin sa gamot, sa IOL, libre lahat. There's a very subtle hidden thing that is really hidden there. You know, the fact that he's not revealing his pecuniary interest with the pharmaceutical industry because he stands to benefit, no, from that. So that one is a white lie in front of the resident happening. And maybe this resident was forced to go to say, because I already not confronted, but already asked the consultant if I could use the IOLs of the hospital and the meds. The consultant dismissed it. Now, as a thought for some residents, if they see their mentors behaving in a way that's quite different from that they teach, then already in their mind something is wrong. So I think that's a good thing for residents to recognize, but I just do not know if the venue was right. So there must be, most hospitals would have grievance committees for it to be elevated. So there. And I think the first question was about which do you think is the most adversarial, or how was the question again, John? The first question.
Most worrisome aspect of the relationship between a physician and the pharma company, pharma industry.
Yes, what is the most deleterious effect, no? In some set, the first choice was the hidden financial interest, and then the second one was increase in prescription, and the third was the adverse effect on the patient. I think that was chosen right because that is the clinically meaningful adverse event, how the patient feels about the glare on an IOL that she wasn't even made private to choose from among the choices. I don't think there was enough informed consent there. So while it is indecent to my mind that you have hidden relations with a pharmaceutical company that supplies the medications to you for your own personal CME unit advantages, I think what is primordial is the interest of the patient more than your secondary gain. So obviously, there's a very big transgression here of the secondary interest. I mean, preference for the secondary interest and the primary interest of the patient. Yeah, so that's my point.
Thank you, Dr. Santos. Would you have any thoughts on that? Dr. Renz.
Yes, well, the conflict of interest between the doctor and the patient is obvious, no? Because the doctor, of course, will be getting something in return from the pharmaceutical company, so it's quite there. But I would, for the sake of discussion, I think I'll attempt to be the devil's advocate when it comes to the practice in the government hospital. You see, in the government hospital, it has to be no balance billing. No? Walang bayad yung pasyente. So that's good. That's good for the patient. But what happens now is that the capability of hospitals to be able to stock and procure these lenses, it is obviously very expensive to stock the whole battery of lenses. So that being said, it also poses a challenge in patient autonomy, no? The patient's right to choose, and justice also, the ability of the hospital to provide the best lenses for the patient. So yon. So there is, of course, the overwhelming fact that our government wants to provide free service for all. But, sometimes the cost will be a challenge to the principle of autonomy and sometimes justice. But of course, in the government hospital, on the other side of the fence naman, we're thriving to serve those patients who, I am from a government hospital, so we're trying to provide services for those who are less economically sound. So I think it's still going towards heavier part on patient well-being. Just for the sake of discussion, the challenge of autonomy and justice is there.
Thank you for sharing that thought. No, so we're seeing also the other side. I mean, from the government's point of view, that there are also efforts to make this the services more accessible to the community. This is an interesting point of discussion, but we have limited time. I'd like also to point out that in the end, the resident was, would you say, rather apologetic. That was fast, no? Normally you wouldn't. And besides, maybe we'd also like to point out that there should be an investigation, part of the process. You don't just rush to judgment, because sometimes the doctor doesn't know, because it's a practice. So not because he's doing it, he's aware of it. Although we have to be aware after after listening to this post-grad, we have to be aware. Okay, I think.
May I add one
Yes,
more?
yes.
Just for the sake of discussion again, yung ginawa rin ng resident, that could also be accepted as whistleblowing, which sometimes is not very bad also, because sometimes it takes a lot of courage to be able to spit it out. Siguro yung avenue, the avenue is just not the right avenue, but you need people with the courage to say something from what they observed na mali ito, hindi pwede.
Easier
Jan?
said than done.
Yeah,
Yes,
just want to add one more thing
yes, yes.
before we move on. I hope everyone in the audience who watched the video also noticed the interaction between the young consultant and the pharma rep. I hope we don't allow ourselves to be in that situation wherein a pharma company will be able to, blatantly ask from you that in exchange for the support that will be given, please use the product. So let's hold our ground. Now we still are the decision makers. So let's not be bullied into doing something on behalf of pharma just because we will benefit from it. So that's my message.
Okay, so I think everything has been discussed in terms of this video. We're ready for the next.
Okay, so for this year, profits have been down. However, despite this, we see that biometry is a steady increase in the profits, which may be due to the new circulation of PhilHealth. However, we see from our other different tests that there's a decrease in the profits for the past year. Ano kaya natin pwedeng gawin?
What if gawa tayo ng complete cataract screening package kasama ng ibang test?
Pwede. Pero hindi naman routinely ginagawa yun eh. What do you think?
Pwede. Gawin natin, isama natin yung mga ibang test kasama ng biometry sa cataract package. Sige, gawa natin memo para isama na siya sa cataract package at i-relay sa ibang doctors. Parang pwedeng operate yung katarata mo. Hindi naman siya gano'y kakapal, pero I think we can operate on it na.
Okay, Doc. Paano po ba yung steps? May mga need po mga prepare?
Good question, ma'am. First of all, we need to know kung ano yung tamang power or lens na gagamitin para sa mata mo. And for that, we need the biometry. Then second, we also need to check the retina or yung back of the eyes. And you also mentioned earlier in American history of diabetes. And kahit na well-controlled, let's order these tests, yung fluorescein angiogram as well as yung OCT macula, so we can cover all of our bases.
Okay, so marami pong mga tests. Tapos parang may na-mention po kayo kanina kasi may family history po ako ng glaucoma.
Yes. Since sabi mo parang may glaucoma yung pamilya mo, let's also do a laser iridotomy to prevent you from developing glaucoma. We can actually do that before the cataract surgery.
Okay. So madami po talagang mga ginagawa. Medyo mahirap po pala. No? Normal po ba ito for cataract surgery?
Here in the eye center, we do a more comprehensive examination and management for all our patients. Para sa inyo rin naman ito. O sige, gawin na natin at schedule na natin yung surgery mo. All good. The surgery was a success. So, in the diagnostic exams na ginagawa natin, normal naman as expected. The laser iridotomy we did also was patent and working. Everything was a success.
Buti naman, Doc. So parang wala na pong need na additional na kailangan bantayan or gawin after the operation?
Wala naman in the immediate future. However, I always ask my patient to come back around 2 to 3 months after the surgery of every cataract operation to do a YAG capsulotomy. So para masigurado din natin na clear yung paningin mo, sometimes whenever there are cases na may kailangan na i-correct the new small grade, I offer to do laser procedures such as PRK to correct the vision.
Parang ang dami palang kailangan gastusin, no? So ang mahal pala magpa-opera ng mata?
All worth it din naman in the end. Trust me, your eyes are safe with me.
All right, once again, here's the QR code. I'll be reading the question and we'll be flashing again the answers. For those who want to join, please scan this. So in performing unnecessary tests and procedures, I guess was the topic of our video. Question number 1, should financial considerations like increasing profits influence an inclusion of non-routine tests in medical treatment packages? It's flashed here. Quite unanimous, or no? There you go. It's like a race, then. Our tug of war, yeah. Okay, interesting. But there's definitely a trend, no? The second question, how crucial is it for patients to understand the reasons behind all the tests included in their treatment package? Extremely crucial, moderately, or not crucial at all? Yeah. So once again, how crucial is it for patients to understand the reasons behind their tests? Extremely, moderately, or not crucial? All right. So the counter actually shows that everybody's voting towards yes. Okay. So I'll leave this now to Doctora to continue our discussion.
I'd say 100% unanimously. I mean,
Yes. Maybe they got pressured into answering that.
Okay, so we have here a chairman who was concerned about the decreasing profits in the eye center. And well, then they instituted policies to include non-routine tests. So we see a lot of probably unnecessary tests or procedures being done at the patient. Obviously, it's a conflict of interest. Any thoughts of that? If you were the chairman, okay, the question is, if you were the chairman, how would you go about trying to sustain the eye center facility while promoting the patient's best interest? Are there ways? It's really an obvious conflict. Dr. Butler?
Well, I think like in anything, if I was the chairman and I'm losing money, my profits are down because certain tests, let's say I have all these tests, you got to look at why and analyze it. You don't throw it on the patient and say, let's just make him pay all this money. You better look at your system and figure out why it's failing or not working well. That's the way you're going to make it work. There will be a reason why it's not making profits. You have to look at that. In this case, what happened is let's just throw it on the patient. We'll have them pay for all these extra tests. We'll get the profits. Everything will be good, and we'll all get paid. Instead of looking at why those tests in particular, and this not just in an eye center, but in anything else. So that's the way I look at it. How do you answer to your question? You look at why. Why are those tests not being utilized? Or maybe they cost too much. There's many reasons there. That's all.
Yeah, it's important to find out why the profits are not coming in. And I think one reason and one solution to this is maybe we need to get more patients in our facility rather than taking it out on the patients who are in the system who do not need those tests.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dr. Butler and Dr. Ronque. It's really about the efficiency. Maybe your cost is a bit too high. Maybe you have negative outcomes that's affecting the number of patients coming in. So you really have to analyze, do a root cause analysis, and then make some necessary changes so that you'll have more patients. Because the bottom line, I think, with 100 million people here in the Philippines, there's enough patients. If they're not going to you, then there's some reason. So there's enough. Contrary to what other people think, that they want to milk each patient, there's enough. With this, we also have to take into consideration that, again, here in our system, its majority is out of pocket. We also have PhilHealth. But let's say in a European setting, where is in socialized healthcare, if you do a necessary test, you're actually going to be called out. and the amount of money that you're going to get is going to be less if you are you are requesting unnecessary tests or doing unnecessary procedures. In our setting, it's mostly out of pocket, so sometimes it gets abused. But if you all the resources are finite, whether it's the patient themselves or it's PhilHealth or the government. So we have to just do tests and procedures that are necessary to the patient. I saw one of the choices there that you could do some tests if it will affect outcomes. Of course, yes, you should do the test if it will influence outcomes. But if it's in this video, you had again tests that are not really needed, laser iridotomy that's not indicated, yeah, capsulotomy for all, then and what other tests?
PRK.
PRK after. Yeah, so that's a little bit exaggerated, but it happens.
Okay, good points. There was part of the video where the chairman cascaded a memo among the rest of the staff. So if you were part of the staff and you get that memo, and you would probably see the unnecessary tests. You only want a biometry, for example, and you have the rest of the tests there. And in some centers, probably they might even give some points for using the eye center facility. So how would you go about it if you'd like to be an ethical practitioner? Would you raise it up to the...
Yeah, so if it's really unnecessary, then why would you ask it in the first place? So again, it boils down to what is beneficial for our patients, your principle of beneficence and your non-maleficence. So judging by our audience's response to the video, they were all laughing. So I think our audience's moral compass is right, and I hope after this it's still right. So at one hand, being a chairman of a center is really a big task of you making profit for the center. And on the other hand, there are centers who incentivizes consultants for asking these tests. So some consultants who wants to have more rebates, they will tend to ask for this test. Now we have to remember, especially being a retina specialist and seeing that you're requesting FA for just to see diabetic retinopathy is very appalling for me. Because diabetic retinopathy is a diagnosis of fundoscopy. It's not diagnosed by FA. So you have to remember the possible complications of FA, extravasation of your dye, from simple vasovagal to syncope, and most dreaded is anaphylaxis. I've seen 2 patients with anaphylaxis from FA. So that's very, very concerning. So you have to always consider your patient safety. Is it beneficial to your patients? And again, as Dr. Tumbokana said, is it beneficial for diagnosis?
Jan, I just want to react to what Ronnie mentioned. It triggered me to say this now. I think as doctors, we need to review and really understand the standards of care. Let's go back to the clinical practice guidelines. How should we rationally approach our patients more than how do we increase the revenue of the center?
Good points. Any other thoughts you'd like to chime in, Dr. Renzi?
Yes, I'd like to add on lang about the issue about the chairman over here. Okay, Chairman Ronnie. Anyway, one very important aspect in ethics is role modeling. Yeah. So whatever the chairman did might trickle down to the rank and file, which is very dangerous, if I must say. So whatever the chairman shows might be perceived by the rank and file as something that is correct and accepted. So talking on a higher level, now we're talking about unwarranted procedures and how it affects not only the patient now. In our case, in the Philippines, we're talking about PhilHealth. So right now, a while ago, we were laughing, and there were many people laughing when we talked about, it was mentioned about doing the YAG capsulotomy after the cataract surgery. It's quite funny, but at the same time, I think it's also very dangerous. No? I find it dangerous because it's not warranted, but still we do it. But why? Basically, because of the PhilHealth issue. Because of, we want to claim PhilHealth more. No, we already know what could this do to the patient, but from a higher point of view, I'll add on to what Doc has said a while ago, is that this leads to misallocation of resources. You know? Hindi naman bottomless pit yung pondo ng PhilHealth din. So if we keep on doing unwarranted procedures on a patient, then you're depriving others also at the same time. So in Europe, I think, where proliferation of ambulatory centers have been very rampant, I think now it's in the point of breaking down. I read that somewhere they want to look back if it was the right thing to do. Okay, so hopefully our insurance company, the PhilHealth, will be able to study that so it won't happen to the Philippines as well.
Any Dr. Santos?
Just one last take-home message after everything has been said. I think in this case, in this scenario, everything turned out well for the patient. Am I correct? I think maybe it would be nice to impress upon the residents that a good outcome of your surgery does not justify all the hidden agenda that went into your convincing the patient to undergo surgery for something that she could have had for less and end up with the same good outcome. No? There are a lot of hidden secondary interest on the part of the chairman just to increase revenue. And I agree that the proper way to do it is to do an analysis of why you're not raking in the revenues that you want. What is it in your system that is wrong? Do not get it out from the patient. No? The patient, because sometimes we tend to pat ourselves in our shoulder and say everything anyway turned out well. I don't think the end justifies the means. I think Renz mentioned that in his talk earlier. No? So sometimes we have the false complacency that we're okay because everything turned out well. No?
I guess, any more thoughts? I think, yes, Dr. Tumbok.
I think the key here is the financial gain, no? The financial gain for the center. As young doctors, we'll be ophthalmologists soon, you might get into centers who might be doing these things. If it doesn't make you comfortable, then get out of that organization. No? So if no, but there are some. If the certain organization doesn't follow your same values, get out of that before you get corrupted.
If you know you're being corrupted.
I was kidding, Tony, na speak up first before you get out.
Well, it's like crossing the line. How far do you cross the line? And at what point does it really count? If you're not, you see someone, you're in the center and this is happening and you're not happy about it and you decide to go along with it, you've crossed your line. Now what's the next thing you're going to do next time? So there's always that, how far do you go? Is it just a white lie and then later on it becomes bigger? All goes back to that. You do it once and then twice and after that, then what? You become like the rest of them.
Actually, these issues that are being publicized, no? These people who are probably caught unaware, caught red-handed. This did not happen overnight, no? They've been doing it in little things until it's blown up, no? So you don't want to wait for that. Yes, yes.
I just want to know, maybe it's the satiety level, no? We're never satisfied with what we have until you're really into the system already. So I have that prudence also to evaluate what my values are as a doctor and what the values of the hospital or the eye center is. If there are certain conflicting values in what we have, then maybe I am not for that center, and I'd probably look for a center which has the same values as I have. No? So sometimes you feel that you don't have any choice but to conform. But remember, I think the most important thing in all of this is where your values are. Because eventually the drug company, the institution just tempts you. But eventually it's you who commits the sin of accommodating to the temptation. No? I think that's a very important premise when you want to get involved in something, when you get yourself involved into something. These are all low-lying fruits, no? And it's very tempting. So they tempt you, but they don't sin. It is you who commits the act against yourself and against the patient.
Yeah, so it's very important to develop your own moral compass. And the first part, I think it's important that we are able to share here what is worrisome and not, and the implications and repercussions of doing such actions that can hurt those people we vowed to take care of. Okay, we're ready for the third video.
A doctor's reach was limited to their clinic walls. Today, with one click, a medical professional can speak to thousands, even millions around the globe. Social media is no longer just for vacation photos or family updates. It has evolved into a powerful platform for medical education, patient engagement, and yes, even business opportunities. The process usually starts with a brand or company reaching out. Maybe it's an eyewear manufacturer, an eyewear brand, or a supplement company. Next comes the negotiation: number of posts, type of content, and payment structure. The influencer creates the post, reel, or video, and once it's live, the audience likes, shares, and clicks. Some buy products, others book consultations. In ophthalmology, some doctors have mastered this space.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save.
But with opportunity comes responsibility. And that's where the conversation about ethics begins.
Yeah, seems like your eyes are still dry.
Doc, can I still use these eye drops?
No. Stop using that. Use this instead. It's something much better.
Why do I have to use this one?
Trust me, it's much better.
Okay.
Okay.
I bought those drops doctors used on TikTok, but my eyes still hurt.
Another victim of the favorite YouTube ophthalmologist. What? 60,000 likes?
I don't think that drop is even in our formulary.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
Chris, I think we need to talk about your influencer era.
Whoa. Are you canceling me?
We just want our patients to stop spending their money on eye drops that aren't evidence-based.
Yeah, just because you're their favorite YouTube ophthalmologist. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous.
We're not saying stop posting, just don't mislead.
So, like, add a disclaimer?
I get it now. I mean, I'm still gonna post, but ethically. Educational content, minimal sparkle filter.
In today's world, influence is powerful, but trust is fragile. As doctors, our first commitment is to our patients. And yes, even online.
I guess I'm an ethical influencer now. First of my kind. I should start a podcast.
Social media gives us reach like never before. But with reach comes responsibility. The real question is not just can we, it's should we? And if so, how do we do it without losing public trust?
All right.
All right, thank you TMC for that video. Once again, here's the QR code for those who'd like to join for the questions. I'm going to read them out. If you were the physician in this scenario, how would you disclose the partnership on Facebook or Instagram without losing your audience's trust? So our choices here are: be transparent about the partnership, mention the partnership briefly, and C, avoid disclosing the partnership. I believe we have. So while you're keying in for that, I'll read the second question. Where do you think the line is between patient education and advertising in a doctor's social media post? So again, I want to reiterate, there's no hard, wrong, or right answer, I think, in how these are phrased. So that might be something interesting to discuss. Why that might be justified. Second question, where do you think the line is between patient education and advertising in a doctor's social media post? So for those not on the app, the choices presented are: patient education should focus solely on providing information. B, it's acceptable to include promotional content. And C, there is no clear line. All posts can serve both educational and promotional purposes. All right, I believe that's our tally. And Dr. King, you can take away the discussion.
Okay, so we see a lot of doctors now posting online or in social media. The problem here is that there's no clear disclosure of their financial relationship with either the pharma or even the YouTube or IG. So, and this can mislead patients. Any thoughts about that? How would you be able to, is there something wrong with posting in social media? Is there a code in the PAO that says we're not supposed to post? No.
I think we do have a PAO social media policy. No? This was made by Dr. Pauline Santiago during our term with her, right? And I think it's all there. Just the specifics, but the general principles are all there. However, I think in social media now, it's so vast that, you know, where do you draw the line? There are no guidelines except for a policy, a general policy, which governs our very core only, you know, but there's no specific policy. Just to give a concrete example, before social media policy, it's going to tell us how big your signage should be. It shouldn't go bigger than this. Now in social media, it's infinite. So where does self-promotion be counted? Where does it come in? We don't know anymore. No? So I think that's one area where our leaders can look into again. And if I may add, TMC, you're good actors and good filmmakers.
Dr. Santos?
I think what builds patients' trust in a doctor is really chair time. And I don't really know how much time you can put in your social media post for the patient to judge you on that. No? Chances are they will misinterpret or misunderstand your whatever it is that you're blogging. Like for this particular doctor, he's using a product that's not evidence-based and actually had an adverse reaction to the patient. So I don't know. I think there was a good commentary at the very start that before, the doctors can only reach out up to the walls of their clinics, but now the click of a finger, you can conquer the world. I find that what was wrong with us during our time reaching out to the walls within our clinics. We're waiting for patients to see us because they've heard of us or maybe it's something we have referred. You know, I think in one of my lectures in ethics, I asked for the one particular line of prayer of on temperance on doctors, from the insatiable desire to reach out to people from all corners of the world rather than waiting for patients to see us in our clinics. Oh Lord, deliver us. There is, I think, much of the trust and confidence is built within your walls, not within social media. Well, it attracts you because of the content, no? Very short exposure will not certainly lead me to trust in what is being said in social media, especially if you do not know the doctor. He might not even be the doctor who he claims to be. So maybe social media is really more for family and events, personal events in your life, but professionally, I don't know if it is the proper way to advertise yourself. I always am of the feeling that the best walking advertisement you can have is a satisfied patient walking out of your clinic. So that's my take on this. No? Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't do social media posting like this. And remember that this doctor's earning from it. No? Am I correct? So that's not even disclosed. And you don't even know the harm that you're doing to patients who will never come to see you and see other doctors because of they followed whatever recommendation you're putting in. No? As a matter of fact, in most interviews in media, when you are interviewed, you're not even supposed to give the name of the medicines that you're about to give patients on talk shows. No? I think that's one of the etiquette before when I was doing some interviews on TV. You just are very general. You don't even mention any medications. No? Because you want the patient to consult. It's important that you educate the patient on the principles, on why you need to consult on certain aspects of your topic, but never to market a particular drug. Because social media, as I said, how much attention span do you keep on, what do you call that? Scrolling, no? I don't think it leads to a wizened decision on your part, on the part of whoever is viewing social media.
But you cannot deny the influence of social media on the public. I mean, yeah.
That is true. So most of the public might even be misinformed. So that's the other danger. It doesn't mean that when you reach out to them, you're reaching out to them meaningfully. No. It's just my take on social media.
So not only are you deceiving the public, you may also harm them if there's a delayed in diagnosis or prompt treatment of conditions. Okay.
The case that we're having now about this cure-all medications that's on social media. So if we disdain such things, why should we even do it? No. Okay. You see it in your clinics. Before you're even able to diagnose a patient, there's so much chair time and history, physical exam, before you could even recommend the appropriate diagnostic tests and interventions.
I'd like to pick on the brains of Dr. Ronnie, being the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
So, yeah. social media
I think
savvy.
I'm the youngest, and I'm also mostly on social media. Disclaimer: I have a YouTube channel, but not necessarily connected with my private practice. So it's a different hobby. No? Anyways, social media is very, very, it's here. In a recent survey, the Philippines is, if not number one, is on the top of social media consumptions in the world. So social media platform is really, really very, very big for advertisement. Now, I'd like to follow on with Dr. Ray, that the good advertisement really is a satisfied patient. I don't see using social media kasi it's not it's an open-ended like consultations sa social media. You don't have any interaction with your patients. They're not able to ask questions, how it works, why it works, and is it really for me? So it's like it's a free for all. If you want it, go get it. No, so it's really, really a very big avenue for revenue for doctors, no? Especially if you have a very, very big following. You may, in the start, have a good intention of giving out medical information, but once a big check comes in, then, like what Dr. Butler have said, where do you draw the line?
At the end of the video, they were recommending that they would start an educational podcast. No, so would that not? Where do you draw the line between truly giving education to your followers versus promoting yourself? Isn't that a form of self-promotion also? Because is that unethical? Dr. Butler.
I was just gonna, I agree with you about the social media. What I was gonna say was that whether we like it or not, and being also on the older end of here, whether I like it or not, social media is out there and it's not going anywhere, and the Philippines is number one in using it. So we have to learn how to use it to our advantage. It's like AI. Make it work for you. So for me, yeah, you could put it out there. You can, and going back to, can I advertise myself? Medical education should be advertised properly, and there can be disclaimers, and there can also be at the end, go see your doctor. Talk to him about this. It doesn't have to be, come to me. You know, with this particular eye drops or something, these are the best, and then say, see your doctor. Ask him about these drops or whatever. You can put these in. You can, give it. Or you say, there's one of the things that mentioned was that there was no evidence-based medicine. You've got to say at the end also, their claims, no evidence-based medicine, which is what they made I'm in pediatrics, and all these vitamins, and finally they had to make them say at the bottom, there's no evidence-based, this, and this. It should be said on the social media. When you blast it out, the same thing. So I think we have to learn how to use it because it's going to be done. I don't like it. I agree with you. I'd rather, and the best is a good patient that walks out, but there might be a way to tweak this to make it work.
Yeah, I'll comment on the fact that what was being promoted here was not naman the practice, but it was the product. So there are rules surrounding that. Prescription medicine should not be advertised to patients. So it's only in the doctor's clinic conducted by a physician. That's the only way that a patient should learn about the product. So that's the rule. Second is, we have a pharmacy law that says that pharmacies cannot dispense products without a prescription. So how else can a patient get a prescription for a regulated drug except through a doctor whom you have to see in the clinic? So yeah, so those two things. And also, the disclaimers, yes, they should be there, that this is only for educational purposes. And I'd like to echo what you said, Caroline, that always say that you need to consult a specialist or a doctor. Always direct whatever medical education you put out there. The call to action is see your doctor.
I think the basic principles from the past 3 cases is really getting financial gain that's not transparent. No, whether it's the first or second or third case, it's important that we have to remember as a doctors we have certain responsibilities. We have to remember those responsibilities, and maybe think back the reason why we become doctors in the first place. I don't think you wanted to become a doctor to earn money. I think hopefully not all, but of course that's just secondary gain. I mean, but just think about the reason why you went to this profession. Whenever, even if it's not in social media, sometimes there's some doctors that even because of your stature you could influence. So just be careful what you say. And if ever you say something and there's a financial gain, disclose.
I'll just add, no, the AO says a pharma company cannot pay a doctor to speak about a product on social media. That's clear in the AO.
We were not even aware of that.
The AO, Administrative Order 2015-0053. I'll show you the QR code. You read it.
Okay, great thoughts. I think we're ready for the last video, the last scenario.
Good morning, ma'am. Yes.
Good morning. Kamusta na nga pala yung mga research ng seniors natin?
Sige po. I will check the status and I'll update you at the end of the day.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you. Sige.
Mas mayroon ba research? Ano pala research mo?
Actually, nahihirapan ako ngayon sa research ko kasi nagre-recruit ako ng mga patients na may large angle exotropia. And medyo mahirap talaga makahanap. Pero sakto ngayon may patient ako na iti-check dyan. Samahan mo ako, papakita ko. Sige. Sir, magandang umaga ulit ha. Salamat sa pagpayag sa research ko ha.
Tungkol saan nga research ko?
Di mo na kailangan malaman yun, okay lang yan. Basta ako bahala sa'yo ha. Sige, start na tayo. Okay, sige. Check kita. Okay sir, magsisimula na tayo ha. Okay, tingin lang po kayo malayo. May lalagay lang ako ha. Ayan. Okay, tingin ka malayo. Okay, test lang natin sir. Ayan, kita natin. Okay na. Okay, sakto. Ganda ng data ko. 50 PDXT. Okay, next patient.
PDXT. Pero parang ortho naman yung patient. Alam ko sa research, dapat tama. Pwede pala yun. Susumbong ko ba si Boss? Para na. Sige. May sasabihin sana ako.
Ano yun?
Tungkol po sa research ni Sir JC. Okay. Meron mo kasi siyang dineclare na kasama sa population na XT daw.
Alright.
Pero, kasabay niyo ba ako nag-check? Ortho naman po yung patient.
Ortho.
Opo.
Pero nireport niya as XT.
Yes, sir.
Ilang PDXT daw kunwari?
50 daw po.
50?
Opo.
Pero ortho yung patient.
Opo. Nakita ko po.
Doon ba mabantay? Check lang. Matawag.
Masyado naman perfect yung data na to. Check mo nga dito sa chart. Oh, ortho.
Naka-record na X.
Uy! Huwag mo ginagawa yung maggamit ko!
Hindi. Bakit
Ha?
ka namimigay?
Akin yan!
Bakit ka
Akin na yan!
Bakit ka namimigay ng data?
Ha?
Bakit ka
Totoo
namimigay
yan!
ng data? Ang dami-dami dito naka-record na XT, tapos ortho naman kapag tinignan ko sa chart.
Totoo yan. Tignan mo ulit.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Thank you, PGH. You could see the conflict in their acting. Very good. So again, QR code, question is here. What do you believe is the most important aspect of ethical research? Informed consent, data integrity, or participant confidentiality? For those who didn't get to do the QR code, the link and the code is also flashed on the screen. All right, next question. How should researchers address discrepancies in data? Report to a senior or ethics committee, discuss with the involved parties first, or ignore and proceed with the research? So just to recap for our panelists, the first question seemed almost even between informed consent and data privacy as the most important aspect. And here, I think the discussion with the involved parties first takes a clear lead. Right?
Okay, so we've seen a lot of violations in this video. I'd like to take advantage of our IRB chair who's with us. So Dr. Butler, my first question though, the first question, which of these are more important, most important, data privacy, informed consent, or data integrity? They're all important. So as IRB chair, which would you
So
say
the
is
question that was asked on your thing said in ethical research. So all of you residents, when you're doing your research, you are required to undergo GCP training. And if you remember your GCP training, there are two major cores. In ethical research, we look at patient safety and credible data. So the rights, the confidentiality, and the safety of the participant is there, as well as that research is going to provide or produce credible and accurate data. So the answer for me for this is they're all important. I can't pick. I think the question might have been off. I would have picked all. Okay? Patient confidentiality, informed consent is the whole, I mean, when you look at your core principles, first, respect for people, the right to informed consent, which was not obviously done here. The patient had no idea what research, obviously there was whatever that happened. And then the data integrity is important. Evidence-based medicine is what we try and hope that you will practice, right? okay, for your when when you get out of all of this. And evidence-based, when we have a holistic type of practice and how we want you to work, actually is based on three things. Number one, using good scientific research to give you evidence-based medicine. Number two, using your own experiences in training and in your practice. And number three, taking into account the patient's preferences and situations. And using those three, you put it together. But if you're already lacking that evidence-based medicine because whatever data you're reading is not credible, you've already fallen down. So for this question, really, it's all are important. It's important that the patient is protected, in which case there was no problem here, but no informed consent and participant confidentiality, it's all shot. And then the data integrity. So they're all important. I can't say one is more important than the other. They're all important to produce good research.
I have a question, follow question. What are your views about making research a requirement for our trainees, considering that this is done haphazardly? There's the temptation to pad or manipulate data just so they'll be able to submit research.
As much as I have a passion in research and working with all of this, I do not think a research paper should be a requirement for every single resident from all programs. Because I think what happens sometimes is we generate and we spit out things. There was a reason that it became a requirement here in the Philippines. If you go back to, it was about post-World War II into the 50s, where a lot of people were saying we've got to push people to get into research. We need more research. We need good scientific evidence on our own population, and we've got a huge population. And we can do this. There was a reason. We wanted people to get into this. But sometimes the reason changes. Reasons why you start a policy. What was the real benefit of having every single resident put out a paper? So sometimes I wonder if we're doing still the right thing. I think it's how you look at research and how you read it and how you understand that evidence-based medicine that's more important. That's for me, but it's still a rule. So I'm going to make sure you follow the rules. And on our IRB, when we're reviewing your papers, yes, we want you to follow the rules. And I don't like people crossing the line. So,
from the point of view of IRB, how would you know whether data is padded, or how would you ensure data integrity? Is there a clue?
That's one of the ways in doing this is, we're looking, when you first submit your protocols, we're looking at different parts of the protocol to make sure that you, first of all, have the right kind of study to answer the question you want answered. That's often a failing point. You're not doing the right kind of study to answer that question. And we try and tell you to tweak it and all that. And maybe that's why the process gets long, because we rarely approve a paper on the first time around, as far as the residents go. And I think you know that. There's a bit of a timeline. And we try and help you to go back. And most of the time, by the time we finish analyzing your protocol and give you an approval, it's a better paper. I'm not saying it's perfect. Now, let's go to the second part. Did you collect your data properly, or was there any? We can't always check that. But, deep down inside, you're not fooling anybody except yourself. You, in the end, will also be at a loss here. So I think that, if you're going to do it right. You don't always get the answers you want. That you do in research. They call, people say, okay, we want to do this because we think it's going to work better than that, or, this drug will treat this. They don't always get the right answers that they want. You don't always get what you expect. Sometimes that's even more exciting. That even leads to another paper or another way to another avenue. Look at how many initial drugs that were tested for one thing and ended up being good for something else. Okay, so just because you don't get the answers or you're looking at this, that doesn't mean it's bad. You still did do the proper paper. That's all. If you and as I always say to our residents in pediatrics, is the study feasible? In the very beginning, he goes, hey, it's very difficult, they find this, but I got one now, let's see. Hey, it's so difficult, then don't do the study. Find something that you can do. Okay, but you don't, altering your data, bad news. Very bad news. And that's how we come out now with a lot of things that come out on social media and saying this would prove this doesn't. A lot of that's bad news. There's a lot of stories in history that can tell you what happened with that, or data that was altered. Being a pediatrician, number one, the MMR and the autism. You know, in the end, they had to retract those journals because the data was a bit misguided and there was conflict of interest. So you have to look at this. Look what happened.
Dr. People.
Yeah, quick answer to your question, Jan. How do we ensure that the residents are truthful in collecting data and reporting them? This is where the importance of getting the right advisor. So we have consultants here who should have that moral compass to guide the residents to ensure that they will generate data that is accurate, that is truthful, and is analyzed meaningfully. So the importance of an advisor. Yeah.
Good advisors.
I'm trying to think of a basic, common concept for all these cases, but I think what was mentioned earlier is really just having the right moral compass. It could start fudging the data, putting in wrong data, then it escalates as you go through your career. So I think there's you shouldn't do it. You should draw the line. With regard which one was more important, I agree with Dr. Butler. All are important. Informed consent is for the patient, for the subject protection. The data integrity, of course, the results you get is based on the data that you put in, junk in, junk out. So it has to be protected. It should be true, it should be protected. But then again, bottom line is everyone should have the correct moral compass.
Can you imagine the medical profession being influenced by wrong data or misinformation because of poor research? So I think another point here is for us to know how to interpret, or as consumers of research or papers, we should know how to interpret data. We should know how to use this data into our like EBM, no?
Yeah.
That's knowing how to appraise and understand data so that you know which is true or not.
Yeah. I think one advantage with residents having a paper is they get to understand the process. Understanding the process will help them learn a bit, appreciate how the EBM. Sometimes we just lecture it, we do journal rounds, it's different. But if they go through the process, they get to appreciate a little bit more.
Jan, I'd like to add lang, no? Siguro, when we evaluate residents' research papers, we have to put emphasis also on the design of the study, how it was implemented. Of course, the outcomes are important, but unfavorable. I'd like to use the word unfavorable outcomes instead of bad outcomes, but unfavorable outcomes are still good data. So some drugs get pulled out because of unfavorable outcomes that have been reported and studied. So it's not bad to have unfavorable outcomes. What's important is we are able to put out that data so that others can learn from it. Pharma can use that information to improve the product or even take it out from the market.
The problem there is publication bias. If you don't have good
Yes.
data, you cannot publish it. I mean, there are some editors who would prefer positive outcomes.
Favorable outcomes. Parang dito papasok yung if it was designed well, therefore the outcomes would be reliable. It's not necessarily favorable, but reliable data is actually good for us.
I think this is a very good reminder for all our residents. No, not having a good data or outcome doesn't mean you did a poor research. Even in contests, in competitions, no, they usually get those with positive data. But I think they should look at the process. Hindi naman. Methodology. Okay, that's good.
Can I just add something to the residents to let you know, one of the things we're asking in your protocol, and this is a question that always goes back because it's hardly answered when you submit your first protocol, is what do you plan to do? How long are you going to store your data? And one of the reasons that you're storing all this is so that if someone questions that data, you can defend it. okay? Not saying you're all going to have bad data or you're going to do what this guy did. But you need to be able to defend that data, and that's the reason it should be kept for a certain amount of time. There are variations on what's the proper time, but it should be kept. So that if someone questions that, how are you sure whether you can go back and review and allow someone else, and it can be then defended. Just to point that out.
Yeah, to add to that, no, this is where good research is actually reproducible. If you replicate the situation or the conditions under which the study was implemented, then you should come up with the same results, right? So yeah, I agree. Data collection, data safekeeping should be taken into consideration also. It's not all just in your notebook, your raw data. It should be properly stored so that somebody can review it, somebody can challenge it, and if they replicate it, it should be reproducible.
Good points. Anything more would you like to add?
Maybe a bit off topic. Sometimes it's important to evaluate data, the publications quite well. Because sometimes there are some publications that also have conflict of interest, right? So those, especially those that are funded by industry partners. You know? So they have the data, sometimes they tweak it to have a conclusion. But if you analyze, if you scrutinize the raw data, it's actually not as good as they claim it to be in the conclusion.
Again, no, this is not what my company is doing, okay? But it's possible that publications are framed in such a way that only this information is being shared. But it's good practice actually to reach out to the investigators and ask for the raw data, all the results, because not all outcomes are being reported. Sometimes it's just the primary outcome measures that are being reported. We could always reach out to the investigators to ask for all the other data that might be relevant.
Actually, even the manner of reporting is very crucial. Your syntax, the way you express, could mislead a reader, an undiscerning reader.
Kaya nga dyan, di ba, we have yung critical appraisal.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's a skill that residents and even consultants should revisit.
Yeah, because even if you have the raw data, the way you write it in the discussion can mislead.
Sometimes what I advise is look at the raw data, don't read the discussion, don't read the conclusion, look at the data. Then make your own conclusion, then maybe you could look at what they say.
Exactly, yeah.
It's good to be skeptical, no? Pero most of the time naman, the papers, they're peer-reviewed naman if they come out in reputable journals. These have been reviewed. So it's important also to look at that. So for the residents, I guess, if you have the chance and the time, have somebody review your paper first, siguro, before you... That's the reason why we report it during conferences, so that people can comment. Yeah. So let's be open to improving the way we tell the story about our data.
Okay, beautiful discussion. Yes, Ronnie.
So, like we said, having bad or not getting to your conclusions of your hypothesis is really not bad. No? It's why it's called research. So I read somewhere, it's searching again. That's why it's called research. So just like a recent anti-VEGF was pulled off the market because of, bad effect. So we didn't expect that this anti-VEGF will have this side effects. So because of the continuing research and continuing evidence, we pulled it out, and then I think it's more beneficial for our patients.
Dr. Santos, Dr. Renzi? Nothing to add. Okay. So I think that's the end of this session.
Yes, that's the conclusion of our videos. I hope you all enjoyed. We do have one last question for people. At this time, I could also ask our panelists that you may take your seats already while we prepare for the next segment. And let's give a round of applause for our panelists for their discussion. While they're getting ready and we're just setting the stage, I would like to flash another question here. If I could remind everybody else to log in, this is probably the most important question for everyone to answer. Who had the best video? Because the winner, Paul, will be receiving a prize and awarded most ethical?
I hope the prize wasn't
Go
from
back.
a pharma company.
Hopefully not. Can we flash the QR again? Yeah. QR again. Sorry. So one more time, here's the QR code. If you are supporting a hospital, do vote in. Yes. So don't worry po, Dr. Ronken, nothing sponsored by our pharmaceutical companies. Neck in neck. That's very close. Is that complete? Ah. Sure, yeah. So far, 100 people have registered, but only 50 have voted. So, yeah. QR once again. Yeah. So we'll announce the winner later. I think we can leave it at the screen first. Yeah. No, I mean. All right, so we'll just reveal the winner later. I think it was quite neck and neck for two. To conclude our post-grad talk here, I invite none other than Dr. King on the stage to give our synthesis of our discussion today.